Welcome to Two Deep, Hokies Under the Influence, a Sons of Saturday podcast. I'm your host, Pete B. And as always, I got my co-host, Sam Jesse, in the fold. Sam, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I am doing great. I'll be doing a whole lot better after a big USA win tonight. It's not looking great, but we always hold out for the boys in the stars and stripes. So need a big win tonight.
Yeah, Sam's got his jersey on. A lot of the men our age, and we're different ages, but the younger gentlemen are very much into USMNT, and it's not an easy road to ride following that team all the time.
It is
So I'm
not. It
I'm
is
hoping
not.
we can pull it out tonight as well. Why don't you kick us off with a cheers?
Well, my cheers is to Virginia Tech recruiting getting some fire under its belly, getting a little bit of heat going. We've seen some good commitments since our last episode. Looks like there's a few more headed our way. So a lot of momentum for Virginia Tech recruiting after what looked like it was going to be a pretty average class. Might have some pretty good players in it.
Cheers to that, buddy. Yeah, the last time you and I recorded together, we went over some recent additions, and it had been a bunch of additions, and now we've got a bunch more to talk about. Get to that shortly. I just did an episode without Sam on the NBA draft and on Mike Young's roster overhaul. We had Irby on the show, we had Ed Williams on the show, we had Grant Mitchell on the show, we had my two buddies on the show. It was a lot of fun. I know it probably wasn't for everybody, talking a lot of basketball, talking a lot of NBA, but there was some Hokies stuff in there, and check it out. It was a lot of fun. If you want an update on what me and Sam did with the recruiting, go back to the episode right before that, and we talk about, I guess that got us up to just before last Tuesday, right? Because we recorded Tuesday
Yes.
night. I
Yes.
think
So we
maybe
have
Wednesday
we
night,
have
but it doesn't
we have
matter.
2 or 3 commitments to talk about tonight.
Yeah. So the first news and note I wanted to get to was about Kamari Copeland, because last week on Twitter, this thing hit the feed and it was a video of him breaking Virginia Tech's all-time squat record. How cool was that?
That's one of the craziest things I've ever seen in a weight room. And what's crazy too is you see a lot of guys will put that up for 3 or 4 reps. To do that for 10 is unreal. It is
Yeah, I was
absolutely
expecting
unreal.
like a four hits. It was 605 for those wondering. 605 pounds on his back squat, and he did 10 reps, and it didn't look particularly challenging for
It
him.
was explosive. It was explosive. I kind of have talked with Billy Ray and some other people about kind of how much that actually helps in football, like just 1 or 2 squats at a really heavy weight, but man, 10 reps at 605 that's Olympic heavyweight level lifting. Like that's
Yeah, and
serious, serious stuff.
he's very much into the lifting. And we have seen guys at Virginia Tech come through who are very much into lifting, maybe more so than they want to be a football player. However, I do think Kamari Copeland is going to have a huge impact for us on the field, and he certainly has the strength for it. The coolest part about that tweet and him breaking the record was that it got national attention
Mhm.
on Twitter. So JJ Watt was the first big name, at least that I saw, that retweeted it or commented on it. And that brought a lot of eyeballs. Randy Moss, I think, quote tweeted it. And then Tyrod gave it a quote tweet as well, I think. And so take a guess. How many views did that tweet have this afternoon, Sam? Just views on the tweet. Can you take a guess?
It's gotta be over 1,000,000 now because I think SportsCenter did something too.
It was 4.5 million. And that was this
Jeez.
afternoon on
So
that tweet.
it's over 5 now.
I would have to imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of attention for the program. And JJ Watt was kind of poking fun at just like if the guys weren't going crazy
Yeah.
enough in the locker room. I thought they did a pretty good job of congratulating him.
The video also cuts right as he racks it at the end, and I feel like when
Yeah.
somebody has 605 pounds on them, you don't necessarily wanna rile them up too much, but one thing I would point out, that's probably the most viral Virginia Tech video that's not Enter Sandman of all time. I
Yeah,
really don't know of one that would be more because the other moments were kind of pre-viral social media.
that's a good point. It's got to be up there, I would think. Now, if you think back to like You know what's really viral, Sam? And I guess it is Enter Sandman. It's just another version of it. That North Carolina wavy orange, like that's probably number
Oh,
one.
when ACC Network filmed it with a Motorola Razor.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
But that goes viral every year.
but that's Sandman.
Yeah, that's
Like, the
Sandman.
only thing I could
Exactly.
maybe think about is, like, a video from the Tech Duke ACC championship game. It's the only thing I could think of, but I can't think of a single
What about the
video from
video of
that.
Vic like spinning against BC or something? I feel like there's one of
Yeah.
those Vic videos, but you're right that the iteration of that, the first iteration was well before all of this
Yeah.
stuff. So that's a really good question and something we should think harder about and figure out what are the most viral non Sandman videos for Virginia Tech. But Kamari Copeland's squat record is up there. I also wanted to note that it is July 1st and that the ACC editions of Cal, Stanford, and SMU are official. And I guess that's cool. I don't know. I mean, we got some more members. It's not the ACC that we are used to, but here we are.
I mean, SMU is fun.
Yeah.
Stanford and Cal are fun. I think it's gonna be really good for the non-football sports, especially Stanford and Cal. I don't know if it really helps the ACC that much, but SMU looked like a program that's serious about football. They raised a ton of money this offseason.
Mhm.
So they're financially going to be a powerhouse in the ACC.
So who of those teams, this is another kind of like fun conversation we could have. Who are the most bizarre and popular ACC legends now that those schools are added? And I'll give you two.
Oh,
One, Tiger Woods,
okay.
Stanford golf. He is
Yep,
now an
of
ACC
course.
legend. That's a pretty damn good one. And then Eric Dickerson, right? Isn't he an SMU guy? And that's a major running back in the NFL from back in the day. ACC legend, Eric Dickerson.
I think I might have it. No, he was a professor. Never mind. I was going to say Robert Oppenheimer, Cal Berkeley, but he was a professor there. Uh, yeah, I mean, there were some definite like
Marshawn
the
Lynch.
SEC, Marshawn Lynch, Aaron Rodgers, Elway with Stanford, right? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
they got a
Elway.
bunch.
No,
Stanford's got
you're
a
absolutely
bunch.
right.
Yeah,
They both have better histories than their current states, a lot of them, and at
yeah.
least at different points. And Stanford baseball has had a long history of
Hmm.
producing players. But yeah, we got those guys official. Maybe next month we'll be talking about some different type of additions or subtractions from the ACC. Who knows? You know, in August every year gets a little bit crazy. I also wanted to note that Billy Ray Mitchell did an interview with Jake Malasek today on the Sons of Saturday channel. He's the UVA guy that works for Barstool. There was a lot of back and forth between him and the Suns and all kinds of people during, when we were leading up to the Commonwealth Cup, and he really had to eat his words there. So that was nice. But Billy did have a conversation with him. I would check that out. And then if you're watching on YouTube, this video, subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. All right, Sam. Let's get to the recruiting update. We are now at 8 commitments for the 2025 class since 6/20. Like just since June 20th, we have 8 commitments for this class and 1 commitment for the 2026 class. So we are
Hmm.
really racking them up. And since we last recorded, the newest addition or the most fresh addition after that was Nathaniel Wright from Woodbridge. He's a Woodbridge, Virginia kid, 6'5, 275. He committed last Thursday, 86 on 247, just under an 86 in the composite. Outside that top 1,000 nationally, but had power offers from Pitt, Duke, and Wake. But I still love getting that offensive lineman in the fold, even if he might be a little bit of a lower ranked recruit.
Yeah, one of those position groups that you need numbers at and really can't get in the portal. I mean, we've seen year and year again, very few programs have been able to get offensive linemen from the transfer portal. So, I mean, hey, Christian Darrisaw had one other offer, and it was Delaware State,
Yeah.
and he is the starting left tackle for the Vikings right now. So, those things happen.
And honestly, like this guy is ranked way better than Christian Darrisaw. I mean,
Way better.
an 86 is pretty darn good. It's just that this class for Virginia Tech has been very solid. And so the fact that Nathaniel Wright is a lower recruit in the class, quote unquote lower. That's a good sign. So I'm happy to bring Nathaniel into the fold. All right, next up, and this was the big one we were waiting for. We talked a little bit about both of these guys, Nathaniel and this next guy, on the last show, and that's Jeff Overton, the running back from Hayfield in Alexandria, 5'10", 192. Maybe a little bit skeptical on that weight, but that's okay. He committed on Friday. This was a big-time commitment. 87 on 247, over 87 in the composite, 654 nationally. And I know that might not sound, oh, he's not a top 500 guy or whatever. And maybe it's just me, Sam. I think that this was a perception changer for the class.
Yeah, he's going to be bumped up in rankings because this is a guy who coaches son. He doesn't really go to a lot of these camps, 7-on-7 stuff. Like, he's not as involved in that circuit as some other recruits. And these 247 guys don't see him as much, and those guys don't get ranked as high. But I believe two-time 6A player of the year on offense, which is Virginia's highest level of high school football. It's crazy.
And you don't
Look
have to
at
look
his
much
highlights.
further. The highlights and the offers. I mean,
yeah.
Like, he's got an Ohio State, a Penn State, an Oregon, an NC State, Tennessee, West Virginia. I mean, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And he chose us, I think it was over Maryland and South Carolina, which is, again, nice to beat Shane for coming for a guy in our state.
Yep.
And getting into Hayfield is a nice get as well. So it's a great commitment. This is a very, very good player. 87, whatever. Like, yeah, could he be an 89 in a couple of months? He could be. And he could end up being a 4-star. But to get a running back, a skill player with these kind of offers, when I think we were having a harder time grabbing these higher end running backs. And now we have Elijah Brooks on our side and we get to snag one. So I felt like this was a guy that maybe we wouldn't have gotten a year or two ago. So I like this pickup a lot.
Yeah, I agree. And what the staff has shown their ability to do with a guy like Bashal Tootin as a pass catcher, as a running back, as a kick returner, that's got to be really attractive for a high school recruit, being seen that you can be used in multiple ways, and seeing how Tootin went from the FCS level to a potential all ACC guy this year. That's huge. So,
yeah,
there's a proof of concept with this Virginia Tech offense.
And if we show that again with Tootin and Malachi and Coney this year, where we can get yardage on the ground, give those guys a lot of carries and a lot of touches, that's only going to improve. And we should be able to get those 4-star running backs and so on and so forth going forward. Could you cover the 2026 guy? Because I need to cough real quick. So I'm going to mute myself.
Yes. Let me pull up his page right now, because it kind of came out of nowhere, to the point where we didn't really even know who they were talking about when Brent Price sent out the bat signal. Usually we have a little bit of an inkling, but Peyton Falzoni, I don't know, from Nazareth, PA, pocket passer guy, did have some big offers, Penn State, Syracuse, some others. So definitely a guy who is being looked at. I don't really know much about him now. We'll see when more film comes out and more of those camps and stuff. But again, quarterback, it feels like Virginia Tech has taken a lot of guys. They really haven't. Like, I think you're going to have to bring 2 quarterbacks in a class with how the transfer portal works. And it's good to get at least one guy in the boat to start that 2026 class. So Peyton Falzone,
we'll learn how to say guy, right?
Yeah, Falzone.
Right. Like, what's going to be awesome is when DP Doe in Blacksburg has the foul zone that you can get late night. These are just coming to me, Sam. But yeah, he's a 2026 kid, a little far away. I do love the Penn State offer and getting a guy they might have wanted. He's from Pennsylvania, so pretty cool there. All right, let's move back to 2025. Edge Sherrod Henderson from Rocky Point, North Carolina, committed on Sunday, 6'3", 210. Nice big frame on this kid, 86 on 247, nearly an 87 in the composite, 821 nationally. Another recruit for J.C. Price. He had a Pitt offer, West Virginia, UVA, Duke, Michigan State, etc. Nice pickup. You need edge rushers. And we had the flagship Friday with Jeff Overton committing. We had the Sunday Funday with Sherrod. We mixed it in between with Peyton and Nathaniel. It was one heck of a weekend, and it wasn't over, Sam, because today, on Monday, we got 4-star Matthew Uten from Norcom in Portsmouth, 6 foot, 200-pound wide receiver. This is one of the stars of the class for sure.
Definitely. And I talked to you offline about it when we looked like he was going to commit to Tech. This is one of those that can flip your recruiting class from good to really good, because getting one of those 757 guys in the boat, getting a top 10 guy in the state in the boat, now all of a sudden those other recruits, they notice that. And if a guy's going to decommit, if a guy is going to want to flip somewhere, now all of a sudden there's another elite guy in the state. Now you have two elite guys in the state, two top 15 players along with Clydenberg. So really,
They're
really
both
good
top 10,
pickup.
aren't they?
Both top
Well, it
10.
depends on where you look, I guess.
High elite players in the state. There's too many recruiting services out
Yeah.
here, man, with these rankings. Uh, really good one. Like, this is a really good one. Wide receiver room continues to just reload with guys. I hope Tech can hang on to him.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. And he's one of these kids that we have talked often about. He's ranked pretty significantly higher on the 247 service
Mhm.
than he is in the composite, meaning the other services outside of 247 have him ranked lower. And he is the number 139 recruit in the country nationally, according to 247, not the composite themselves. And that means that 247 Sports views him as an NFL draft pick. That's how they do these rankings. They have 32 5-star rankings for the 32 guys they think are first round draft picks in that class. They do this every year. That, and you might not know that, but that's how 247 does their own personal rankings. Now there can be composite an extra 33rd guy or only 31 5-star guys, because once you factor in the other rankings, but 247 will always have their top 247, which are essentially the guys they think will be drafted, and then they're 32 5-stars. So that's how they view him, basically as a 5th round pick in the NFL, like
Mhm.
projecting forward. And that's pretty darn cool to bring a
We'll
guy
take
that
that.
they think maybe an NFL draft pick one day. And hey, it's at the position that Fontel Mines continues to just
Yep.
hammer and bring in, whether it's transfers or these recruits. Like, we're talking Brody Adams and Aiden Green out of high school. We're talking Felton. We're talking Lane, Ali Jennings, coming in the transfer portal. Like, Fontel Mines is doing work, baby. He
He is
continues to do so.
absolutely doing work. And if the Hokies are going to lose 3, probably 4 wide receivers at the end of this year due to graduation, NFL, etc., you're going to need bodies to come in there. And I don't know if Uten is a guy who's like a day one player or anything like that, but you need to have depth. It is, Fuente was right when he said you need 7 or 8 guys at the wide receiver position in modern offense. So you need to be able to build depth in that room. They have put an emphasis on it. It is paying off. This is a really, really good pickup.
I mean, if you just look at the pictures of him and his measurables, he does look like a guy who can contribute early. Like, he's a big body kid.
Hmm. Yeah,
All right,
it's a really
go ahead.
exciting one.
It is. It really is. So let's talk about the class overall. We're at 14 guys, and we have moved up. We were in the 50s or 60s in terms of class ranking in the country. We're now number 41 in the country, 9th in the ACC. That's from 16 when Sam and I talked a week ago to 9th in the ACC. And 10 of the kids are from Virginia. And so we have 6 of the top 25 kids now committed for the class of 2025. 6 of the top 25 Virginia recruits are coming to the Hokies. And this is only July 1st. So if we
Yep.
could get that top 25 number to maybe like 8 or 9, which would be phenomenal, like that would be really, really good for, and exactly what Brent Pry's been preaching, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's some of these guys that a lot of people, even in the recruiting circles, feel like are a bit underrated and could see a ratings boost here in the next few months or whenever 247 does their, I think they do one every like 6 months or something like that. So I feel really good about this. Like, Overton is a guy who Ohio State went after really hard. Uden is a guy who Penn State was going after really hard.
Yeah, we
So
didn't
yeah,
we didn't mention the other offers for Uden. Like, he has a Georgia offer according to
yeah,
247.
yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
would
this is a class that I don't think is going to wow people. Like, I don't think it's going to be top 20. I don't even know if it'll be top 25, but it'll be a good class. And like we've talked about on multiple previous episodes, Pete, they're going to do work in the transfer portal somehow, some way. they're going to have to bring in some veteran guys because they're going to lose a lot of guys.
True. So just to confirm, Uten and Clatterball are top 10 in Virginia in the composite. And so we have 2 in the top 10, we have 3 in the top 15, and we have 6 of the top 25 in the state for 2025. So we're doing well. We're doing really, really well right now. And this is the kind of thing we kind of, at the beginning of June, we're getting a little nervous. Like we're too low. And now we've gone on this crazy run in June and early July here where we're very competitive. And I would expect us to be in a battle for, well, hold on. I want to play a voicemail from one of our listeners, and it's going to lead to just a little bit more recruiting talk before we take a break.
What a segue.
Hey, Too Deep. This is Kevin from Orlando calling. I enjoyed your episode about who Virginia Tech has recruited. It was great to listen to. Along with Micah Matthews and Malik Washington, who I hope both do indeed come to the team, I was wondering about your thoughts of four-star Jadon Blair. He had an official visit to Virginia Tech back on April 12th, and he's also a four-star as well. I was wondering what you might think about his possibility of becoming a Hokie as well, and maybe we can get all 3 of these 4 stars. That would be really good. I also, too, would like to know your opinions about whether or not the 2 5-star recruits that are linked to Virginia Tech are going to come to the team or not, and that is David Sanders and DJ Pickett are the 2 5-stars that are linked to the school that are considering as well. So I look forward to hearing your next episode next week about recruiting and the team. Go Hokies.
All right. Thank you, Kevin from Orlando, for the call. Kevin is a frequent caller during the season. If you listen to the show regularly, you probably recognize his voice. To his first question about Jadon Blair. Blair did visit in April, and then he's taken a bunch of other visits to other big-time universities since then. I think it's a Notre Dame lean at this point. That's what it seems like it's looking like online, and the few things that I read this afternoon. That's okay. If he chooses the Hokies, that's great. I'm not thinking that's a possibility. If you're talking about Micah Matthews and Messiah Delhomme, those are 2 names that I think we should absolutely keep our eyes and ears open for. I know nothing. Sam knows nothing. Sam has talked about Micah Matthews many times because he likes the fact that he's a sport athlete.
I just want Micah Matthews. I don't know anything about it. That's it.
But as for the 5 stars that you talked about, I'll put it to you this way: where we're at in our rebuild, I don't see us getting a 5-star. Not in this class.
Yeah.
That would be what I think. What do you think, Sam?
I mean, even in Tech's best days, it took a lot of things to go right to get a 5-star, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Tyrod Taylor out of Hampton, the Fullers having a familiar connection. Kevin Jones, you're coming off of a national title. He flips a coin to go to Virginia Tech, like literally flips a coin to go to Virginia
Tech. You got to
Tech.
get lucky.
Very few schools sign 5 stars. Now, what I will say is Kansas State just got a commitment from a 5-star tight end today. Now, he's from Overton, Kansas, but it happens. So, man, you probably hear my dog freaking out at something. He's a good guard dog, but I mean, yeah, it happens, but it's really, really rare.
You need, like you said, Fuller brother, Tyrod, in-state quarterback at a time when we were still pretty hot. And then Kevin Jones, like you said, a little bit lucky. That's where we're at with 5 stars. Like, yes, we made a run at Chris Cole. He was up the road, that's a reason we might have had a chance just because of the proximity and whatever. But it's going to take those very particular type of situations for us to pull a 5-star until maybe we make the playoff in a year and have some juice. Like we're just not at that point yet, as much as I'd like to be.
Yeah, I think it's more likely if Tech is to get one of those like elite of elite prospects, I think it's more likely that one of these 5-star guys from Virginia goes to Clemson, goes to wherever, and after a year they transfer to Tech, or after 2 years they transfer to Tech. Something like that, I think, is more of the pathway to getting elite talent at Virginia Tech. And when I mean elite, it's not to say that some of these guys aren't, but like if you're a top 32 recruit in the country, like that is special. That is really, really special. Um, I just think it's really, really tough. Very few schools sign 5 stars.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break to talk about our sponsor and then do a beer break. But I did want to thank Kevin for the call. And if you want to call and leave us a voicemail with any off-season questions, it's 540-251-2169. It's right on our Twitter page. But yeah, give us a call. We'll take some off-season questions. Kevin actually left us a voicemail maybe a month back on realignment. I was going to save it until we get to August. So keep that in mind, Kevin. The Two Deep Hokies Under the Influence podcast is brought to you by Roback. Roback is the performance activewear designed for those who crave activity. You guys hear us talk about this. You know the drill. It's code 2DEEPVT for 20% off your order. They have the Commonwealth. They have, all other kind of polo designs, hoodies, tees, quarter zip, shorts, joggers, those little dresses that you'd love to see your wife, girlfriend in, whatever. Go on there, load up your cart, use code 2DEEPVT. Roback is really just blown up. I mean, I'm seeing it absolutely everywhere. You need to get yours if you haven't already. And if you have already used our code, use a different email. Start a new email just so you can get some more Roback. These are the ways around the thing that you need to do so you can get some more cool stuff. So use code 2DVT, Roback, crave activity. We're going to have some new sponsorship reads for you, I promise, very, very soon. We know of one. We can't mention it yet, but it's going to be a cool one. And that's something I think you guys are really going to like. So we'll go from there. But for now, Sam, I need to know what you're drinking.
At the moment, I am drinking some kombucha. We are not on beer tonight.
Okay.
We will be this on the 3rd. I'm going to the Norfolk Tides game for baseball, fireworks. Not going to do the 999 challenge, although I do want to test myself with that at some point. It's going to be a little too much family around for that, but I have had some really good beers lately. Nansman Brewing Station here in Suffolk is a really small microbrewery, but they have some really awesome beers, and beers of all different types. They have a really good sour, a couple good Hefeweizens. They have like a peanut butter brown ale, the Beanut Brown Ale, that is really, really good. It's a 4.0 on Untapped. And if you know how the Untapped scoring normally works, a 4.0 is really, really high.
That sounds right up my alley. I'd love to try that one. All right. I am drinking the Tired Hands Hop Hands. This is, if you're from Pennsylvania or anywhere near, you've heard of Tired Hands Brewing. It was one of the first breweries that really got into the milkshake IPA type stuff. Them and Treehouse, they were, if not the first, they were the ones that were doing it the best. Like back in 2014, 2015, you'd go to Tired Hands for one of their releases of like their strawberry milkshake IPA, and it's 200 dudes on a work day waiting to spend $20 a 4-pack. Like that's the level that this place was at. It's obviously, as that style has kind of lost some of its juice because it's just so unhealthy and people are just growing weary of the sweet IPAs. Tired Hands has come down a little, but their quality has not. It is still very, very good. And the Hop Hands itself is just a pale ale. It's not a strong IPA. It's just happens to just be like a hazy pale ale. And it's basically just their standard like light beer. They don't do a lot of like regular light beers. They have Hells and stuff like that you can buy, but this is their like base beer. And Hop Hands it's a tremendous drink. I would liken it to the Maine Peeper or any of those other like good pails that you would get from a high quality brewery. So I would recommend the Hop Hands, and they have it on tap in Philly, around Philly, and you're seeing Tired Hands. I can get, this is a Pennsylvania brewery. I can get it in New Jersey. I'm sure you can get it in Delaware and even south of there. And they were shipping to DC because my friend was getting it in Arlington for a little while because he lived up here and he really liked the beer and he would have it shipped down. But anyway, I would recommend the Hop Hands from Tired Hands Brewing.
I wonder if we're going to have a market shift in the like microbrew market it's felt like everything for the last year has been like a citrusy IPA. And I think
Yeah.
people are starting to get a bit tired of that. And I wonder if you're going to see a move into a different direction or if they're going to get a little more. You might see some get inventive, like with a peanut butter brown ale or something like that. I think could
Yeah.
be uh,
Well, there's
interesting
always
for
the
us beer
trends.
drinkers. Yeah, we'll see what the next trend is because I think the citrusy IPA, as someone I like that a lot, but it's like every single beer at every single brewery, and it's tough to find new stuff.
I think we're starting to see, well, obviously the sour beers and like even the ones that
Mhm,
are just slightly tart, like that watermelon goes you had in the last show. That is, especially when summertime hits, an extremely popular segment that has grown significantly over the last
mhm,
5 years. And I just think the heavy, super super hazy IPAs. There's people still, the real like beer nerds still like absolutely are obsessed with them and like will only drink doubles and things like that. But for me, the everyman,
yep,
like I like the beers under 7%. Everyone knows that about me. And you're also seeing it skew completely the other way and having these beers that are just like, I'll give an example. Have you heard of Garage Beer? It's from like kind of where you're from.
yes,
It's a Columbus, Ohio brewing company that started it, and they actually spun off Garage Beer, which is just a regular light beer, as its own standalone thing. I forget the name of the brewer. It starts with a B. But now the Kelsey brothers are behind Garage Beer. Like they signed on and probably bought a share of it, and it's really exploded. And it's starting to become available ever. But they're from Ohio. The company was from Ohio, and so. But it's just the whole thing is that it's a regular, clear lager light beer. And
mhm,
I think Montucky is another one like that where they just wanted to make this like it's regular kind of like Montana Bud Light, and
mhm.
because that's where they're from. And you're seeing more and more breweries. There's one around here called Kenwood. Just all they make is this one type of light lager, and that's what people are going towards now. I think that's like the
Mhm.
anti IPA movement, but you still have your guys that will only drink IPAs.
Yeah, I need to get next show. I'm gonna have a weird one next show.
Okay,
They go
I like
weird.
weird
Yeah,
ones.
yeah,
I
we're
could
gonna
get
get a
into that.
weird one next show.
All right, Sam, this is going to be fun because last week we got, on top of all the recruiting news, some NCAA 25 news. And, I keep calling it NCAA 25, but that's
It's
not
not.
what it is. Like,
Nope.
because it's not that anymore. It's called college football 25. And so let me
Mhm.
add this to the screen. These were the rankings that EA Sports put out for college football 25. And I've got the overall power rankings on the left. I've got the offensive power rankings in the middle, and I've got the defensive power rankings on the right. And these were kind of trickling out slowly throughout the week. And I think the defensive ones might have come out first. So let's start there. Or actually, I think it was offense. And we were 24th on offense, which
Mhm.
did surprise me. And then we came in at
Yeah.
20th. Was it 14th on defense? So just taking those two first before we get to the overall ranking. I was actually more surprised about the defensive ranking. What were you
Yeah.
surprised about?
Well, I think a player like Kyron Drones is like tailor made for this game. Returning a lot of wide receivers, returning a lot of running backs makes sense, especially with how they ended the season. Um, 14th on defense is way too high, way too
I
high.
I
But
agree. I
they
agree.
used they used PFF for a lot of this. And if you look at Tech's highest performers on PFF on defense, like Dorian Strong was one of the best performing cornerbacks in the country. He's one of the best. Anais Peebles is one of the best performing returning defensive tackles in the country. And what I heard this today, where if they do it the way that Madden does it, Madden takes like the top 12, 13 players from each roster and kind of ranks those as the way to do their rankings because they just assume everyone else is pretty equal. So I wonder if they did that for this.
And
And
that's
that's why
it's
you could
funny.
see a team like Colorado so high up because they have Travis Hunter on both sides of the ball. And he's probably 99 overall.
That's a good point, Sam, because in a video game, you don't need depth. Like you're
Mm-mm.
just playing the same like 22 guys the entire game. And so I never really thought about it like that, but that makes a lot of sense. In terms of just if you're giving us a ranking, a power ranking, and we have to compare it to like how we actually did last year and how we're projecting for this year. And I was more surprised about the defense because one, I kind of assumed our offense had a better year than our defense last year. Now
Mhm.
I know what the stats are, but you don't always remember them when you're in the fourth month of the offseason. We were 28th in yards per play on defense, 50th in yards per play on offense. Part of me forgets how bad those first few weeks were.
Yeah.
And I also think why I thought the defense was too high at 14 anyway, but to even be close to the offense was because I felt like we played so many bad offenses last year that the defense really got like a benefit from that. And when we played hard offenses like Florida State and Louisville, what happened in those games? Like we got shredded.
Not good things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think
go
it's
ahead.
also you look though, I mean, the games against Old Dominion didn't score a lot, although they put up some yards. Old Dominion didn't score a lot. They blanked out Pittsburgh. They blanked out Syracuse. They blanked out Wake Forest. They blanked out BC. They blanked out UVA. Like the defense had a lot of really good games last
It
year.
did. It did.
So I think statistically, the defense was a little bit better than the defense was on film for the large part of the season. So that could be playing into it. I think most of it though is marketing. Like they put Colorado up there for marketing. You look at the top teams, like if you look at their top 10 overall power rankings, outside of Utah, you pretty much have like 9 of the biggest college football brands.
Mhm.
And then behind them is Michigan, Florida State, Miami, A&M. So I think that's the biggest factor in all this.
Another thing that if you look at the defensive rankings on the screen right now, we're 14th, as I said. But look at the teams behind us. Like,
What
I
is
don't
USC doing on there?
right. Like, why is USC a top 25 team on defense? Like, and LSU was god awful. Like
Horrible.
this is, and so maybe Sam, we're 14th because defense in college football is trash.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, USC is at 16, LSU is at 18, Colorado is at 20.
I
Those
think
were
Louisville could be higher
UNC
because
is
they're
at
22.
23.
Yeah, like why is
Those are
UNC?
4 of the worst defenses in Power 5 football last year. I don't get that, man. I
Yeah,
also love
so
how they just threw Utah at like 10 for everything.
yeah, I know. Well, I want to talk about Utah in this too, but
Oh,
Colorado was for sure on my list because if you go to the overall rankings, Virginia Tech comes in at number 20, which is fair. Like, I think that's probably where the AP will have us, or maybe just a little bit lower. Like, we could even be unranked
I
when
think
the AP comes out.
USA
But
Today has Tech at 20. I believe
in
so.
okay,
And
not
overall, yeah.
I gotcha. So
Mhm.
20 seems about right for me there. But Colorado being at 16 is just so ridiculous. And again, it goes back to what Sam said initially about it's a video game and the PFF, and you only play, a certain amount of guys when you're in a video game. So maybe 16 is right in that world, but it's just so funny. And Bud Elliott did a lot of commentary on all of these rankings and stuff, but it's not real life. And also, whatever we think or the SP plus comes in at, like that's all subject to change. Like we don't, and no one knows how any of these teams are going to be. We didn't know how good our offense was going to be at the end of the year with Kyron Drones. We thought we were trash after 4 games, and so things change quickly. And so yeah, these could end up being right, or they could just end up being marketing, as Sam said.
That darn old capitalism strikes
Mm.
again.
Yeah, but I do love the fact that we're in all 3. Like, I mean, how great is that? You always say, what do you say, Sam?
It's nice to be included.
It's nice to be included. So,
It is. That's the name of the game in college football now. Is just get your foot in the door.
all right, I'm going to add another graphic to the screen, and this is EA Sports College Football 25's toughest places to play. And we are on this list as well. And this is something that is near and dear to Sam's heart because he does his own home field advantage rankings. VT number 17 on the toughest places to play. At first, when this hit me, I thought, okay, historically, that would be fair. Lately, I don't know if that is fair. What did you think when you first saw that?
So my first thought was probably, I think we have to think about it this is different than if you were betting on a game, or if you were to say like how good is a team at home versus on the road, or like thinking really analytically about it. Don't think that's what they were going for. They were going for big stadium, sells out, loud, and that's what they did. You know, is Alabama is almost notorious that it's not that loud. They put them at number 2. And this was made by like college football nerds. Like they
Yeah.
talked about how in depth they went for all of this. So the fact that this is their top 25 for loudest places in the country,
Well, I
I
think
think they went for brand of home field over like statistics.
did they talk specifically about loud? Wasn't intimidating part of it too? Like there's and
Yeah.
is there a more intimidating place than Alabama? It might not be the loudest place, but when you're there, you're playing Bama, and that in it of itself is so intimidating. Number 1 is Kyle Field, where Texas A&M plays, for those that don't know. And I've always heard a lot about Kyle Field. I know we played there 20 years ago. I don't think it should be number 1. I just don't think because toughest places to play to me implies you've dominated at home, and that's not necessarily the case for Texas A&M. Whereas a Utah has dominated at home, and they're behind us at 18, and so that is like, and that's in Sam's rankings, they're number 1 in toughest places to play.
Yeah, I got Utah 1, LSU 3. I'm looking at this like Ohio State, Penn State, Auburn, Oregon, Florida, Notre Dame, Michigan. I actually have for 2024, I have Tech at 18. So pretty darn close. Clemson's up there. Like it makes sense. But if you want to talk like who is a team that is extraordinarily better at home than they are on the road, Wyoming is up is a different team. They also play at over 7,000 feet. Utah is another one of those teams. Appalachian State is a team like that. So,
and I think when you're talking toughest, like your rankings are largely based on results, right? Like they're based on like how teams have performed. But I think what we were saying that EA did is that the extraneous factors, such as just like location, like it's hard to play in Lubbock because it's far from everything. Like that doesn't, and regardless of whether you win the game or not, it's hard to play there. And so I think if I'm looking at this list and I'm picking a place that's really, really hard to play, and they got a lot of the really hard ones at the top.
They got the bulk. They got the bulk of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think like Penn State has to be up there in the top 5, especially if it's like a whiteout game or something like that. Autzen would be up there in my book. Georgia, yeah, it's up there because they're Georgia, but I don't think that's like a tough place to play. Like Clemson is a tough place to play. LSU like is robbed because I think they should be like 1 or 2. Like the fact that they're 3, I just think is wrong because it's it's so impossible to play there.
Exactly, and there's some on here like Michigan and Texas are notorious for not being loud stadiums. Like everyone who goes to a Michigan game talks about how it's not loud. Everyone who goes to a Texas game talks about how it's not as loud as it should be.
I do enjoy the fact that they got a G5 team on here, and it's Boise State, because Boise has had a long history of dominating on the blue turf, and it's far, and so it's got to be an extremely tough place to play.
Cold.
And so, yeah, they're the only G5 on here. And a fun one that was added at number 25 is Mississippi State, which has the cowbell, and that's obviously going to be challenging to play against. But the Swamp clearly up there. The Swamp should be ahead of Florida State. Do you agree with that?
I probably agree with that. Florida State, I think, if Florida State is good, it's rocking. If Florida State is not good, it's like embarrassing. Like the picture of the guy reading the book shirtless at the FSU game, like that's what I always think about.
Oh man.
So it's not. I'll tell you one that should be up there. Oklahoma isn't known for being crazy loud and raucous. But that's a team that, if you look at home versus away splits, they are crazy good at home.
They don't lose at home.
They get upset on the road a lot. So if you're into betting and you're looking at home road splits, Oklahoma is one to look at.
Yeah, I think Nealand could be a little bit higher. I mean, but you
Yeah.
can't put everyone higher. Someone's got to be lower. So ultimately, it's a very hard ranking to do. I'm glad that Tech's at 17. I would have thought with our recent history, maybe we'd be somewhere in the 20s. But the Enter Sandman, it is an extremely loud stadium. That all factors into us being probably appropriately ranked for where we are in our steps.
Also,
Because this will change next year.
they also just forgot to put the transparency on for the Lane Stadium picture.
Well, I think, yeah, because
That's
it's
why
like
it looks different.
highlighted. It's like
That's why it looks
highlighted in my
different.
graphic. I did not highlight that.
No, that's EA mistake.
You're right, because this is an on-3 graphic and the field green is like coming through, and it makes it look like we're highlighted, which is cool. It stands out for the graphic purposes. That's pretty much all I got, Sam. I know the game is starting, the soccer game starting in about 10 minutes. Do you have anything else before we close out here? You have a mystery Hokie for me?
Yes, I do. Are you ready for this one is going to be I told you I wanted to do they're gonna get progressively a little bit harder.
Mhm.
And this one is going to be like I can make it either really hard or really tough. So just kind of roll with me for this one. But
Okay.
that's the one I wanted. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I was pulling. Okay. So again, for those who don't know, it's players from 2000 and beyond. I'm not going to tell offense, defense. I'm not going to tell when they played, but I'll tell how many years they played. Okay. So this player played at Virginia Tech for 4 years. Over their career, they amassed, let me do some mental math, 643 yards of offense and 4 touchdowns.
Okay.
Okay.
Not so much production. Go on.
Yeah, but started every game, and I will say was a major part of the offense.
Okay.
Okay. This player was known for playing multiple positions on offense, somewhat whimsically.
Okay.
The best game of this player's career is, again, a little tough because not a ton of touchdowns, but I think their most memorable game came in 2008 when they had 2008 against Virginia had a good game. Another good game was let's see, what's another good one? Boston College at home in 2007.
All right, let me stop you, Sam, because I have for one thing, you said somewhat whimsically. So my mind immediately went to Sam Rogers, a guy who played multiple positions. Now stop, because then you said 2008. So that is not the guess, but that is what I was thinking. Then I kind of went to Greg Boone, another whimsically guy who played multiple positions. And I'm trying to remember if Greg Boone played in 2008.
Well,
I don't think go ahead.
The best game is really tough for this player because this player was a big player, but Tech's offense didn't really do much in those years. So it was a little tough, but I'll give you a fun fact about this player. Oh shoot, I had it pulled up. A fun fact about this player. I lost it. I had a really good fun fact. Darn it. See, this is why I have to look over to my monitor.
This
commenting.
Yeah,
but you're on the right track.
Yes. So I'm thinking it's like, is it like a tight end? Like he had to have played tight end at some point. And then
single digit number.
Yeah. See, that's Greg Boone, but I know it's not him, but that's just like.
Are you sure?
Is it Greg Boone?
It's Greg Boone. Greg Boone only had 4 touchdowns in 4 years of starting at tight end.
But I was talking about Greg Boone. Why didn't you say you got it? You didn't want to.
Well, you didn't answer it. I need a final answer.
I was kind of like walking around to see if you'd give me the go ahead, because I was thinking like when you first said, "Oh, this guy contributed to the offense, but not that many yards," I was like, "Oh, Ryan Malik," and I'm going through like all the tight ends trying to figure out who it was.
I was shocked. That one's not as clean as the other ones have been. But I was just shocked he didn't do anything. Like, there are no statistics for him. He like the most rushing
was a
yards he
fan
had out of
favorite,
that
man.
wild turkey was like 5 carries for 25 yards.
And how great is the name the Wild Turkey offense? Like, because the Wildcat
miss
had
it.
just hit at that point, like Wild Turkey and the liquor and how much Tech loves bourbon, like it's too perfect. And that's why,
It kind of
the name Boone rains down from the stands so easily.
Boone. Oh, it's so good. It
Yeah,
was
that's a
so
good
good.
one, Sam. That's a fun one.
There's
And what,
I think I have the next shows as well that'll be a little bit tougher, but their best game is going to be a really recognizable best game.
okay.
So it's
Nice.
it'll be a fun one next week.
Sweet. Well, that was a lot of fun. We covered everything with recruiting. We did a little college football 25 talk. And I'm now going on a little bit of a vacation. I'm going to hopefully see our X's and O's guy, Mike Holmes, when I'm out in Colorado. I have a wedding out there, celebrate my buddy Jake. Should be a lot of fun. But I'm going to be off the grid. And so unless Sam records without me or decides, he just needs to get something out, you probably won't hear from us until I'm back next week. But that's okay, because after that, it's going to be hard hitting almost every week until we get to the season with all kinds of different stuff from us on this feed. So I can't wait, man. It's like I'm looking forward to taking a little bit of time to like recalibrate and get our minds right, because we've been putting out a lot of stuff over just the last couple months. But once mid-July hits and we're going through those team previews and talking realignment and talking about our playoff predictions, the season's going to be. We play football next month.
I know. It really does feel like calm before the storm. I might take like a 3-day college football mental break before I just dedicate my full like right lobe of my brain to college football.
And you're already doing the TikToks, right? So you're already like,
yes,
you're getting into
if you're on TikTok, check us out at Sons of Sat VT on TikTok. I'm putting out team previews. We have Oregon and Oregon State. Cal is up next. We're going west to east. So the West Coast schools are first. Cal is a really interesting team this year. We'll talk about them later, I'm sure. The Cal Bears are interesting.
All right, buddy. That's going to do it for the show. Make sure you hit us up on Twitter. It's at 2DVT, at 2DVT on Instagram, 2DVT@gmail.com if you want to send us anything, 540-251-2169 if you want to leave us a voicemail. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And until next time, go Hokies.
Go Hokies.